HRN listeners. As we celebrate our 15th year, we are deepening our commitment to giving voice to the next generation of food systems storytellers, and we need your help. Our internship and fellowship programs help activate new possibilities for underrepresented and underestimated young people through experiential journalism, audio engineering, and production training. Through these unique programs, HRN helps food equity stewards build essential workforce readiness skills that expand their potential and foster economic mobility. Please consider supporting these critical programs. And with a minimum donation, you can be entered to win a dinner for two at an amazing restaurant in one of 8 cities and tickets to a concert at a great venue in one of those cities. We have incredible partners across the country who have donated, as they also share our passion for helping to educate the next generation of food systems storytellers. Check out heritageradionetwork.org/15 to donate and enter to win today. That's heritageradionetwork.org/15 to donate and enter to win today. And make sure you donate before March 31st. Thank you.
Today's program was brought to you by Le Creuset, made in France since 1925. The first and finest enameled cast iron cookware, a favorite for generations. For more information, visit lecreuset.com. That's LECREUSET.com.
I'm HRN's Communications Director, Kat Johnson, with a preview of this week's episode of Meat and Three, our weekly food news roundup. It's Thanksgiving, so we're talking turkey with sweet potato casserole, stuffing, cranberry sauce, and pecan pie. But we're also discovering some surprising truths about this holiday.
As it turns out, roasted turkeys are actually nowhere near the original Thanksgiving tables. In fact, most of the foods we eat for Thanksgiving today weren't eaten in Plymouth.
And you know, a lot of the dishes came about, well, because of the products that were on the shelves and the marketing that told us this is the product we should use.
Every once in a while, though, the consumer creates the food trend. Care to top the turducken, anyone?
I've got to give credit to this fellow that said this is the best pile of meat I've ever had, and then said, but if you added bacon.
Tune in to this week's Meat and Three on Heritage Radio Network, available wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hey, welcome to Beer Sessions Radio on the Heritage Radio Network. Hey guys, it's Tuesday, November 20th, 2018. I'm Jimmy Carboni, the host of Beer Sessions Radio. We've got a great show today, Downstate and Upstate collaborations. Let's go around the room. There's so many brewers. I'm feeling really good today. We got everybody's here, back our buddies.
Jesse Ferguson from Interboro Spirits and Ales.
Jesse, you've been making some great collaborations with these guys. Everybody, let's go.
Hey. This is Dietrich Garing from Indian Ladder Farmstead. See what you did to me, Jimmy? Thank you, Jimmy, for that. From Indian Ladder Farms Cidery and Brewery.
Scott Velman from Indian Ladder Farms Cidery and Brewery.
And you guys are way up in Albany County, upstate New York.
Way up there.
Yeah. All right. And Pete, you brought some guys too.
I brought myself, Pete Langell from KCBC, and Trevor Slam.
Yeah, Trevor from Greenpoint Beer.
And we got the full house here. We got everybody.
Stuart Morris from Indian Ladder as well.
This is Fubs from Just Add Beer Sauce and Marinade Mix. I don't brew, we make sauce.
So we got a food collaboration, beer collaborations.
Felipe Salom from Costa Rica, Cerveceria Rancho Humo. Thanks for having me.
And you came in with Pete too. So this is a special show, you know. So Stuart and Dieter from Indian Ladder, you know, we've been buddies for a while. You've brought on some great guests in the past. We've had a hop scientist, Paul Matthews. We did a show up at your brewery and farm in Albany County. So it's really special to have you guys on. Give us a little update on what's been going on with you guys, because a big part of your program is you're growing hops, you're growing grain, you're making cider, but you're also coming and making collaborations with breweries in the city like KCBC and Interboro.
Yeah, we've been doing some collaborations with Jesse at KCBC and with Pete now for a couple of years. So we've got a couple of things that we're doing on a regular basis. One that we're drinking right now is called Taste Like Celebration, which is kind of an ode to a beer that you all know on the West Coast. And with Pete,
It does taste like celebration.
It does. doesn't it?
Tastes like a party in a glass, right?
It is. It's very much a party in a glass.
It's wintry
And then we are just getting ready. It isn't out of the tank yet, right, Pete? We've been doing something. You, Pete.
Yeah.
With Pete from KCBC. It's called Scott.
Oh, it's Strictly Taconic.
Strictly Taconic, which is a lager beer that we've been making with them. And both of these beers are pretty much all hops from our farm, and we have 2.5 acres of hops on the farm.
So you guys have taken a great approach. I mean, because you're a farm-based place, but your brewery is very small and you're still growing.
Yeah, we've grown a little bit. We went from a 3/4 barrel system up to a 3-barrel system in May, and Scott Veltman came on with us back in February. So he's been cranking that system pretty hard up there.
And Scotty, I'm
cranking it hard. Cranking it hard.
You were at Albany Pump.
Yeah, I was at Albany Pump Station for a little while. That was the last time I was on the show.
Yeah.
So it's good to be back in this room without Uncle Paul. No, I'm just kidding.
And so Pete and Jesse, you guys, fill us in. So you guys are, Pete, you've been traveling. You were in Norway. We had you on the show last week. Jesse, you guys are making a lot of collaborations. Tell us about this kind of like upstate, downstate, New York collaboration. It kind of makes sense, right, with the local ingredients.
So we have at Interboro. This is Jesse. We have a series of beers that we make with Dieter and Scott and Stuart and the whole Indian Ladder crew. And they all start with Taste Like, because the very first time we brewed a beer together, it was.
Was it Taste Like Upstate?
Yeah, it was 100% new. Dieter, it was barley grown at Indian Ladder and 100% hops, and you brought it down and you were like, it smells like Upstate, and I was like, oh, sure, that should be the name of the beer, and then we were like, that's not a great name for a beer, so we were like,
I still like smells like.
So we decided to call it Taste Like Upstate. But the other thing that we do, and so we have Taste Like Upstate, which we haven't made since then, but we've done Taste Like Fest 2 years in a row, which is our Fest lager with all New York State grown malt and then all Indian Ladder grown hops. And we had this Taste Like Celebration. And then we also did Super Local, which was an IPA with all Indian Ladder hops and all New York State grown malt.
I remember Super Local.
But the thing that we do that I think that sort of helped start our relationship was also that because Indian Ladder is a cidery as well, we also get cider from them and make apple brandy at our distillery. And that was sort of, I think that having those two streams of raw material that's all New York State and ways to collaborate have been what's been critical to our relationship with the Indian Ladder crew.
Yeah, on the farm, we're about 50% a brewery and 50% a cidery. If you look at our sales, year to date, it's pretty much we sell 50% beer, 50% cider. So it's if you come up to and see our board, it's 6 cider, 6 beers at all times.
I mean, you guys have a different approach than most other upstate operations. I mean, how did you first start seeking out these New York City brewers to work with?
Well, it really all started in a camp out, as a lot of good things start, and that's where we first met Jesse. And as Jesse's career moved from Carton to other half to his own place, we started, working with him. It was kind of a natural fit. We were, it's good to, work with friends, the people and we look, for us getting off the farm and coming down to the city is, we look forward to it. It's a great day off the farm, and whether we're working with Jesse or Pete, it's it's a wonderful time.
Yeah, it's always a blast to hang out with these guys.
And then you guys also host a lot of city brewers up at your farm too, don't you?
Yeah, we do, and actually we're just finishing up a collaboration house on the farm so that we can do more of that, because it's a little difficult. We're kind of in a remote area, and there's the nearest hotel is about 11 miles away, and it's not very. We don't have a lot of Uber drivers, and out where we live. So we're getting this collaboration house so that people can come in and spend the weekend and do make a beer with us.
Yeah, and Pete, tell us about what you've done with them.
We have Strictly Taconic, which is
we have Strictly Taconic,
New York State Pils, and all hops from Indian Ladder. And we did Where's Dieter?
Where's Dieter?
Yeah, we did
Scotty,
that.
why don't you tell him about Where's Dieter?
It was a brute. It was our rendition of like a brute IPA. I think it was.
Yeah, it was a brute.
It was a brute. It's all New York State malt and all hops that we used from our farm. What did we use in that? We used Nugget. We used Helderberg and maybe Brewer's Gold, I believe. It's been a while since we brewed that beer.
I think it was probably Helderberg because I'm really excited about that
Right.
particular hop.
Yeah, we have a hop on the farm. We have a hop on the farm that is, we consider it kind of a New York State proprietary hop. It was a hop that was grown in Albany County up until about the 1950s, and it was given to us once a gentleman who had it and was cultivating it found out that we were, establishing a commercial hop yard, and we've been growing it out for about 8 years now. And on a really good year, it has a really nice pineapple-y, perfumey aroma to it that you really don't see in a lot of East Coast hops.
I mean, Pete, have you guys found that there are enough like interesting, really good New York State ingredients like hops that you want to work with?
Yeah, I mean, we're still learning, and I think people are still learning how to grow them, how to process them as well. But I'm pretty sure we'll find like a new Citra or something in New York State. We got to find the hop that grows well in this climate, and maybe it's already an existing varietal, and you just grow it here, and you get that terroir, and you get something new and exciting. I think we're going to find a lot of good hops in the future, and we've got some good ones already.
It's our mission.
It's your mission. Yeah. And you're having a great time, aren't you, Scotty?
No, I'm having a terrible time. I hate working at the farm.
You do.
Yeah. It's fun. It's fun every year seeing what the crops bring in, because varietals that wouldn't necessarily be exciting from Yakima or from Washington or Oregon that are coming in from New York are totally different. And so when we get like last year I think it was Crystal, and that we've done a bunch. We used a bunch of Crystal in this Taste Like Celebration. And Crystal's a great hop, don't get me wrong, but the stuff that's being grown in New York, and specifically at Indian Ladder, has a totally unique character than any other Crystal that I've ever used. And that's what's fun, I think, about doing these single or all New York hop, all Indian Ladder projects where we get to taste how the hops are evolving year over year. Because that's what, I mean, as a brewer, what you're always taught is like, well, the age of the crops and the age of the vines, and that's where the development comes in. So working with Dieter, who's got such a profound knowledge of hop growing in New York State, and watching the whole market sort of learn where it might end up, but also working with Dieter because he's ahead of everybody on some level in terms of just age of the crops, is helping us see where I think New York hops might end up in a place like what Pete's saying, of finding stuff that is going to produce aromas and flavors that work more for what people are looking for. Modern beer drinkers are looking for.
Yeah, and it's also being able to recognize that in New York, and especially in the Northeast, from year to year things change. I mean, not only are we our vines getting older and more mature, and the taste is changing, but last year was a complete drought year, and this year we had rain almost every 36 hours, and that absolutely changes how the hops that come in to end up being pelletized, because in a lot of cases, because of the rain, we have to make a decision and pick early, so that changes how the hop is going to be, let alone the terroir and all the other factors that are involved. Whereas in Yakima, it's the same every year.
Trevor from Greenpoint.
I think like a big thing too is just like the idea that there are a lot of hop growers in New York that don't really have access to the lab equipment that we can get like information about these hops. So it's like, no matter how good some of them taste, like we do a lot of work with, we use a lot of Willet farms, like Cascade. I really like how that tastes. But, I'll call him up and ask, what are the alphas on these hops? And he's like, I don't know. Like, it's somewhere in this general range. And, like, it's tough to use these hops, especially, something that you might not want to put in solely as a dry hop or, like, really heavy in the whirlpool, but something that would shine in a lighter beer like a Pils or like a Pale Ale or something, and a Kettle Edition. And if you don't know what alphas you're working with, it's really tough. So I think once that access is a little bit more universal, and we get a little bit more experience in growing these ingredients in New York, I think we'll find some really cool stuff.
Yeah, the access is actually there, and we do send everything out to be analyzed, and it has been there. The problem with it is that as a small grower, it's extraordinarily expensive. To have all of our stuff analyzed this year was almost $2,000, and as a small grower, that is a big nut.
A lot of money.
It's a big investment to make on a product that you're not sure you're going to sell.
Right.
Like you could get your product analyzed, you can get it pelletized, you can get it packaged, and yet because the market isn't necessarily developed yet for the New York State hops, the brewers aren't necessarily going to flock to buy it. So no matter how much alpha, beta, oil percentage if the brewer doesn't believe they can make a hop that's going to go to market and actually sell pints and somebody in an off-premise account or an on-premise account, then they're not going to make and it's not cheap. It's not like New York State hops are cheap. We're paying, for the most part, more.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
In
order to make these beers.
And is it the same with New York State grains? I mean, in terms of like analyzing the product before it goes to a malt house?
Well, we have to analyze everything. We cannot. The maltster will not even accept our grain unless they have a full analysis. They need to know what the falling number is. They need to know whether it has vomitoxin and those kind of things. Those are basics. But those tests are a lot cheaper than they are for hops. The hop test is just a lot more of a complicated, analysis, and there are a lot more variables. We break it down into oils, because as a serious grower, I want to know year from year, how has it changed? What have I done differently? I'm trying different fertilization programs. I need to know if it rained every day, how does that affect, the geraniol,
That's the one we all want.
Yes, it is. They should put that in capital letters when the test comes back, I swear.
And Pete, when you're looking for, I don't know how much product you're buying from New York State, but whether you're looking at New York or other, hops and grains, are you looking for all the analysis? I mean, you're a science-minded brewer.
Yeah.
Pete doesn't care about science.
Science fiction, maybe. But,
science.
We buy our malt mostly from New York Craft Malt, Ted Hawley, and he does malt analysis on everything. He can give us extract efficiency, dry grind, Congress mash, S over T. He's got full analysis, so we look at that for sure. Originally, we were more kind of concerned with consistency I think one of the biggest issues was modification and size. Size of the kernels was a huge problem up front. And that's not from the maltster per se, that came from the farms. So the maltster was having issues getting subpar quality grain from a farm, and then he had to deal with that. And so they've kind of had to work their way backward all the way to the farm. And
kernel plumpness is important.
Huge problem, yeah.
If it passes through your mill without getting crushed, then you're going to get inefficiency and not even necessarily know it until the end of the brew day.
Yeah.
And then like, oh, well, shit, we should have fucking set the mill gap smaller.
Yeah,
but
right.
like,
and then you look through it and you're like, oh, this isn't right.
These are tiny.
This is not cracking
I mean?
open.
And then you pulverize the plumps, and then you get a stuck mash.
Yeah.
That was a huge problem up front, and everyone got. I remember the New York City Guild would do these annual smash brews, but that was not single malt. It was like something state,
single state malt and hops.
Yeah, it was
state malt and hops.
State malt and hops thing, and we got the grain, and then everyone got everyone at the festival had session beers because we had shit efficiency, and we had widows, a grain that doesn't get milled and it makes its way into the mash as a whole kernel is called a widow, and you get nothing from it. There's no extract coming from that. Right. So that was a huge problem up front, but it's getting better. One issue that I'm always bringing up with the maltsters is, and the people from Cornell, is the varietals that we're getting, and they're kind of.
Wait, you don't like Conlon?
They're kind of
New Dale?
approaching it from
Tastes like hay.
what grows well in this region.
But yeah, not what the flavors are.
Yeah.
I mean, what we're finding now that we're actually getting to the point where we're getting better efficiency, and now we're like, oh, but what about flavor?
Yeah.
And it's good, and obviously it's definitely not a second thought because the quality of the product is the number one thing that we're addressing every time we brew a beer. And yet, it's like sometimes we're brewing these beers and wondering, well, is that a flavor that's being contributed by the hops, or is that a flavor that's being contributed by the malt? Because they're so widely disparate from what your standardized malts that you would get from any of the big maltsters, the German or the English or the American maltsters, where everything is so uniform. And so, because you're dealing with such small batches of barley, whether it's, how many hundreds of acres it takes or tens of, whatever acres it takes to fill a bag, it's minuscule compared to what the massive maltsters that are supplying the majority of brewers are producing. And so taste variation then becomes something that you're actually noticing, whereas
it's only recently that we're trying to get the folks at Cornell to, I said at the end of the day, it's like, so they're working it really hard to find stuff that we can grow. There's over 22,000 different varieties of barley, of brewer's barley, and trying to find something that's actually going to work for the farmer, that you can get a plump kernel on, an off year, and that you can get a decent yield on, and it's disease resistant. Well, that's all really great, except for if the brewer says it makes crap beer, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, and we've just spent 10 years developing this. Right. So it's going to take some time.
Yeah, that's exactly what I told the guy from Cornell. I was like, I know what your program's all about, and we have to start there. And we're like, but really all that matters to me is, can I make a good beer with this? And because this is a business and this is our reputation, and we have to put out the best beer possible. And it's getting better, and it's going to take a little time. And a lot of these varietals that we're used to, like Jesse's talking about, they're proprietary, and we can't get them in New York State. So.
Yeah, at the end of the day, local's great, New York State's great, but if nobody wants to drink it, who the hell cares?
Yeah.
But you're getting there. And guys, let's make a quick toast to so it's the Interboro Indian Ladder Farm. What is this?
Cheers.
Tastes like celebration.
And we'll be back in a minute on
Smells
Beer
like
Sessions
lawsuit.
Radio. Hey, I'm Jimmy Carboni, the host of Beer Sessions Radio on the Heritage Radio Network. I was introduced to Le Creuset cast iron skillets many years ago in my first restaurant, Mugsy's Chow Chow in the East Village. Le Creuset has the superior heat retention of cast iron paired with unparalleled performance and the ease of enamel. That means delicious food with easy cleanup. And I love easy cleanup after running my own restaurants in New York for 23 years. Le Creuset Original Heirloom Cookware is backed by a lifetime warranty. Their bold colors and timeless designs allow for an expression of personal style in the kitchen and beyond. Head to lecreuset.com/HRN. That's LECREUSET.com to see all the new products and amazing holiday gift deals. HRN listeners will get 20% off the new Le Creuset cookbook with the code HRN. Hey, welcome back to Beer Sessions Radio on the Heritage Radio Network. Hey, check us out, heritageradionetwork.org. If you're in the New York area, coming up first week of December, we have our annual gala, so check it out on heritageradionetwork.org. So, great crew here tonight, Upstate, Downstate collaboration, some of my favorite brewers. Jesse, you made a joke on the way in. You said that some writers are asking you why everyone's drinking this
Rothaus Pils.
Rothaus Pils in Brooklyn.
I have no idea.
Because it's good.
Because it's good as fuck.
So here at Roberta's Pizza, it's like the number one Pils right now. And Scotty, why did you drink this? You're like, first
What?
thing you ordered Rothaus Pils.
I like it. It's
I've
delicious.
never even heard of it before.
Once it hits your lips, it's so delicious.
Have you seen Jimmy? Have you seen the label?
No, what is it?
It's
come
super
on.
classic, yo.
Yeah.
It's totally classic.
Is it Santa?
Didn't I see your
No,
face
that's
on
not
the
Santa, that's
something
Mrs. Claus.
similar to that?
Yeah. That's why I got the email. Yeah.
But anyways, we're talking about
Interhalf.
collabs, and we got a great tangent there. We're talking about some New York hops and malts. But let's jump over. So Pete, you brought in Trevor from Greenpoint Brewing because you guys are working on a collaboration.
We brewed a collab today. And I mentioned it last week on the show as well, and I didn't want to give away the big secret, but Trevor will tell you what we did.
Yeah, so we just decided not to put any hops in the kettle at all, and this kind of stemmed from this one day where, because like I have a 3-man operation, including myself in the brew house at Greenpoint, so we were down a man, and we were all feeling pretty tired. It was like a Friday afternoon, and I didn't have any cool hops in the walk-in, so we were like, you know what, let's just order hops later, or like today, and then or whenever they come in, we'll throw those in the dry hop. Didn't put anything in the kettle, didn't even whirlpool it, just sent it right into the tank after boil, and we dry hopped it like pretty heavily, and it was a little bit of a test to see if you get bitterness from doing that, number one, and if you get any flavor and not just aroma, which you definitely do, both on those. So we did it a couple times. We called that beer fully aromatic. And then, I was hanging out with Pete one day at the brewery.
Was anybody laughing when you said that?
I mean, maybe. I don't know. I chuckled, I think, a little bit, but that's about it. But yeah, so I was hanging out with Pete one night, and we were drinking the beer, and we were like, hey, this is a cool idea. We want to spread this out to maybe a bigger scale, because we're only on a 5-barrel, so that wasn't really something that we were planning to put in cans. It was just an experiment that we were messing around with. And, Pete decided, let's brew it there at his brewery. And so that's what we did today.
With the Quebec.
Oh, yeah. With one of the Norwegian yeasts. So it's one of those ones where it ferments out super fast, nice and warm. And
it's a high temperature yeast.
Yeah.
We're knocking out today, and I'm like, all right, what temperature? He's like, knock out at 75, set the tank at 85. I'm like,
if I were you, I'd just turn the glycol off.
Yeah, this time of year you can do that. I wouldn't do that in the summer.
No.
Yeah, because, it can handle up to 100 degrees, but I don't like it there.
And we were talking about it last week, Pete, the Quebec yeast from Norway. Are you worried about it?
No, not
it's going to go fast fermentation.
I've been using that pretty steadily for about a year now, and I'm all for it.
So what beers have you made with it? Mostly IPAs?
Anything, dude. Like, we've done... Lagers. No, that's the one thing that we won't do. The one thing we won't do.
Yeah.
We've done cream ales, we've done pale ales, done IPAs. What else? Just really anything that's an ale strain that needs a clean... Yeah, no, that the 10% stout that we...
It was delicious.
Yeah, because it's just like, you need something to ferment out, and you want to make sure it ferments quickly.
Is it a high attenuator?
It is and it isn't. It can do really anything. So we do our New England IPAs, with like the mash temp that we like and the amount of flake that we like. It'll finish out on a good day at about 4 Plato, but we'll put it in a brute and it'll finish, somewhere around a half Plato. So it really does anything you want it to, depending on how much oxygen you give it and how you treat it.
Trevor, it's your first time on the show, so it's good to have you on. Tell us how you got started as a brewer? Just a quick overview.
Oh, so I started working at this place Upstate because I'm from Poughkeepsie area. So I worked at this store called Halftime. So I just out of college decided, I don't need a real job yet. I'll just work in beer for a little bit while I apply to other jobs. And they had a homebrew shop there, and I just stole equipment, ingredients every day. So I was like, screw it. I hated my boss at the time, and I decided to learn how to brew beer.
Statute of limitations up on this?
I think so. It's been about 4 years now, 5 years.
Does Halftime sell your beer?
Not anymore.
No, I don't think so.
That's Fuzz from Just Add. Yeah.
But yeah, so then I, started working over at Greenport Harbor down in Long Island for a little bit, and then couldn't handle the North Fork life. It's too slow. So
Beautiful.
Yeah. Well, it's just the entire area shuts down for 3 months in the winter. So, and
we don't know anything about that.
Yeah. So I was working second shift out there. So I'd go in, do like a 2 to 11 shift, and couldn't even like go grocery shopping because I'd wake up at noon, and everything would close at 8 o'clock. So I had a lot of 7-Eleven dinners over the course of a year. And I was like, I'm not doing this anymore.
That's like the hardships of
Jose
country
Ole is delicious.
And Scotty, tell us about you. Tell us how you got started as a brewer. Let's make sure we get everybody included.
Oh yeah, I was a brewer at Omegang when I first started. Went to school for fermentation science. It was a program through Siebel that happened at the Canadian National Research Council. And I came back into the States and got myself a job at Brewery Omegang, where I started as a tour guide, which was kind of funny, just like everyone else.
Just like Nick.
Just like Nick. I was a tour guide, but I was only a tour guide for about 2 months. And, they got me working night shifts, which was great because that's where you have to start. The beautiful 10 to 6 shift. No one's there. And then it evolved after 6.5 years, and then I got a job in Albany at C.H. Evans Brewing Company, where I was there for about 2.5, almost 3 years, and then I came on board here at the at the farm. It was pretty funny too, because when I first met Dieter and his wife Lori, they were actually out at Omegang, and they were looking at our tiny little hop yard, our quote unquote experimental yard. They were taking a look at it, and they're kind of smiling. It was like, this is adorable kind of thing. And, they're like, we have a small hop yard in Albany County. I was like, oh, cool. Whereabouts? Like, oh, we're in Altamont, New York. And at that point, my driver's license still said Altamont, didn't say Cooperstown at that point. And it's like, oh, we're at Indian Ladder. I was like, I know exactly where that is, because I grew up, 10 minutes away from the farm. But I grew up in the hills, so I was a Hill William. They were Flatlanders,
so you came back home.
I'm rugged.
And Jesse, let's keep talking, man. You guys are rocking out already. So, Jesse,
me, yeah.
So Mr. Fubs too. So we got all kinds of collaborations.
Yeah, let's let some of these other folks talk over here.
Just Add Sauce. Fubs, you've been at a couple of events with me this year.
I've been at my share, all of them, and I get started not in beer. I got started in where Jesse and I know each other is, I guess the best way to put it is cultural outlets, youth activities of sort. I used to run an art magazine, and then I managed brands and slung T-shirts and people and artists for years. And a good friend of mine that was my partner ended up becoming a chef with Nobu for a number of years. And one thing led to another, and a couple years ago I had this idea in between things. Why is there no beer marinade? And it didn't exist, and so, we made it, and now it exists. And it's called Just Add Beer, because people can't fucking read. So we're going to help them, and still people can't read, even though you put it blindly on the front. Well, what is this about? It's like, do you add beer to this? Well, yes, it says add beer. So do it. And that was the basis of it. And this conversation is very interesting to me, because to hear, the ingredients and the quality, it affects our sauce. So when we start to mix with different, we have 3 flavors, but depending upon what you pair it with and how you cook with it, it changes it. And it's to hear with the depth of the importance of where all these ingredients come from, the hops and the malts and all this, it changes how, when you pair with our flavors, it changes the entire the cook situation.
And a quick plug, so pick one of your sauces and a beer that you'd cook with it. With chicken or pork or something.
It really depends on we have 3 sauces. We have a base that's a barbecue miso, Japanese barbecue miso. We have a Szechuan black vinegar, and we have a fiery Mexican trace chilies. Now the Mexican sauce goes with light crispy beers, pills. Roadhouse would be great with it. Anything Hefeweizen, anything like that. And the miso goes with a darker, robust, juicy IPA, a stout. Things of that nature, and it'd be more vanilla, chocolate, coffee.
So what I do, I warm the sauce in the pan and add the beer.
You don't even have to.
Thin it out.
Different ways you do it. It's versatile. So you can mix it up as a sauce, and you can do a 2-to-1 with your beer and your sauce, and you can put it over anything you make. You can marinate it. You can marinate your meat for that's a little bit of a different ratio, and cook with it from there. And it becomes, it depends how long you marinate it, becomes better. And then there's a dip, which just mix it up. We even are versatile enough to mix it with mustard and other different things to do whatever you want with it. Put it on a cheese board. So all of a sudden you can put your beer on your cheese board. And you mix it with our miso and your mustard, and you have something different that goes with cheese and meat and all kinds of things. But it doesn't, our sauces without the beer are just sauce. And the beer is what make it that whole other thing, because it's based on an umami base. And so all the umami ingredients, those like savory, like more or less like dirt is what it comes down to. Mushrooms and things with like immense flavor that hit your tongue. The beer interacts with that and it turns it up.
Well, you're awesome, man. Thanks for doing the events, and we're going to have you on this winter. We'll do a special beer and food parent show after the New Year's. So, yeah.
Hey, Jimmy, we've got somebody here from Costa Rica, and they're doing a competition, and I believe that Pete has done a collaboration with them, and I'm very curious about this because they've reached out to us to be part of this, and I'd like to hear more about it.
Pete, why don't you introduce again how you met Felipe and Costa Rican connection.
Jail. We were in jail. Costa Rica.
Nice tattoos, dude.
It was actually the connection was Miguel Rivas, the beer trekker. His high school buddy was one of the organizers of the Copa, Ignacio from Treinta y Cinco, which is one of the oldest craft breweries down there. And this last year was their first year of the Copa. And I think they were trying to get the head brewer from, that brewery outside Austin that I can never remember the name of. Jester King, yeah. And last minute she had to cancel, so Ignacio asked Miguel, put some names in the hat, and mine was in there as one of them. And I got selected, so I just randomly went down to Costa Rica and had the best damn time. The people were amazing. The beers were great. Not all of them, but most of them were really, really good. And we were like wined and dined. We did 3 days of very rigorous judging. I was really impressed with how well organized and orchestrated everything was. It was incredible. And then we had the fest and got the awards ceremony, and it was awesome. And I met this guy at the awards ceremony. And he's one of many of the local breweries down there.
Yeah, well, my brewery is it basically started as a water bottling project. Because we have a private biological reserve in Costa Rica, and we have a well there and very good quality water, and I wanted to develop that to communicate what we have there, and ended up getting somehow into craft beer and just going crazy about craft beer because it was easier to communicate what we have there. All the beers are named after animals that we have in the reserve, and I just started getting into reading about craft beer, started making my own, got a Sapco system and experimenting, brewing every time I could, and the project ended up evolving into this craft brewery about this private biological reserve that we basically communicate that like one of the beers is like a type of stork that's the biggest the biggest aquatic bird in America. It's 4 feet tall and 9 feet long on wingspan.
A stork.
Wow. Stuart Morris. Stuart Morris.
So this is in January, so we're all going?
Yes.
It's nice here in Brooklyn.
All of you out there in the podcast land, you're all invited.
Yes, and everybody, there's still time to participate in the cup. If you want, you talk to the beer tracker.
All right, man.
We're going to charter a rowboat. We're good.
Yeah. I love this group today. And it's got it. We just poured a couple beers. KCBC. Let's give those a shout out. I think we had 2 beers.
That's the Aperol Spritz.
Yeah, this is a
I'm sorry.
collab show, right?
Hopperol Spritz. Yeah.
This is a 4-way collab. We're into mega collabs these days, but this was the good fine folks and friends from the Well had their 4th year anniversary, and they reached out and said, "Hey, can you make a beer for us?" And I'm like,
we love the Well.
Yeah, we love the Well. Well, we love you. We love them.
Ian and
love
Josh.
them very welly. But they wanted to do a collab with Anthony from Root and Branch and us, and then of course
And then you guys wrote me in.
We brought Jesse in, and it was a brewed IPA. We hadn't brewed a brewed IPA before, and Jesse had made a
That's
brewed
why.
IPA.
I had never had. That's why I agreed to do
you
it.
lied to us.
No. I never said I did that.
I just assumed you had.
No, I remember. I have no idea how to use Amelo. That's why
we figured it out.
Yeah,
we figured it out. This shit is.
So
awesome.
what's the secret of the brewed IPA?
It's
Amelo 3000
enzymes.
Hey, throw it in the mash.
We
and
the fermentation, and just throw it in everywhere.
Throw it in anywhere. Don't use hops. Just use alpha amylase.
Lots of hops. Lots of hops.
This enzyme will break down the dextrins, the branch sugars that are not fermentable by sack yeast, and breaks them down into probably glucose, straight all the way to glucose.
Have you heard about this new fermentous yeast, the HA18?
It's got its own
it's got enzyme
limit
in
dextrinase.
it. Yeah.
It's 2018.
Do these things speed up the process?
I don't know if it speeds it up.
No, you just get a lower terminal gravity.
Yeah.
So like the whole concept behind the brewed IPA is that it's dry like champagne, right? So that's why it's brut. And so your terminal gravity ends up being like, what was the terminal gravity of this?
Negative 0.8.
Wow.
That's
impossible.
The limit of the instrument that we were reading, which is an Anton Par, because it's a density meter, and when there's no sugar left,
you can't be negatively dense. So like,
I can be negatively.
Make
dense.
sure there's head pressure on that.
We can all be negative.
It's alcohol and water have different densities. It's going off the basis of water, so you can trick this machine into thinking it's below zero, but it's probably basically zero.
Alcohol is super low density compared to water, right?
Yeah.
So that's the whole.
So it's the
concept.
Hopperall.
That's
the
it.
hop
That's
roll.
it.
Jimmy.
Cheers to the Hopperall. I'll take
Hey,
another short
cheers.
break. We'll be back in a few minutes on Beer Sessions
You
Radio.
got another one of those?
No.
Have you heard? It's party time. Monday, December 3rd is Winter in the Garden, Heritage Radio Network's second annual year-end gala at the Brooklyn Botanic Gardens Palm House and Yellow Magnolia Cafe. Join HRN staff, hosts, members, and some very talented chefs and bartenders for a delicious evening that will kick off the holiday season and support our end-of-year fundraising drive. The evening will begin with a VIP hour, complete with bubbles and oysters. Then, all of our guests will work their way around 2 spacious rooms filled with food stations and bars, sampling fare from some of our favorite chefs. Sip on your choice of cocktails, beer, wine, sake, and cider while bidding on exclusive silent auction items. 2019 is our 10th anniversary, so whether you've been a member since Roberta's first opened, or if you just discovered your new favorite food podcast, please consider supporting us with a ticket purchase so we can start the year on solid ground. We'd love to see you at the Garden. So join us on December 3rd. For more information and to purchase tickets, go to heritageradionetwork.org/gala.
Hey, welcome back to Beer Sessions Radio on the Heritage Radio Network. Hey guys, quick, Scotty, what was the beer we just had before? And then we're gonna try another beer.
We had our Homie Haulers. It's our New England IPL because we're in a basement and it gets very cold in there. So we do a lot of lager beers. But yeah, this is like my take of doing like a New England IPA, but with lager yeast. This has our farm grown Tinker malt, has some New York State oats in there. It's got our nugget hops, and it's got some fun.
Does it taste like Upstate?
Tastes like Upstate.
It tastes like Upstate.
And Trevor, let's pour yours. And while you do that, Jesse, when you guys made the taste like celebration, did you start with a recipe based on celebration, or?
Yeah. Basically, I went on the internet and I found a recipe for how to make Sierra Nevada Celebration, and I was like, but then what I just super simplified it. So it's 50% New York State 2-row or pale. I can't remember which I used. 50% Munich. So like you're building like a really big malt bomb, and then 2 bags of non-New York State grown crystal rye, and that's what makes it purple. And and then yeah. So
We can do that. It
More of
keeps
a
us
red,
in
really.
okay,
it
well,
keeps us in the
if you
percentages,
drink enough, it looks
Kind of
purple.
an orangish red.
Yeah.
But what does it come out of these?
The beets.
And Trevor, this beer now. So we're gonna just try to knock out all the beers.
Yeah, so
can I
this
get
is
some of
the Melted State that we just put out last
This is
week.
your brute.
Yeah, yeah. It
So
doesn't say
Greenpoint-
it on the
Greenpoint
can,
Brewing.
but yeah. So this guy, we were messing around.
Can I
more.
rub this texture off if I?
If you try hard enough,
Yeah,
I guess. Yeah, yeah. That was.
Oh, it's a nice looking can. Don't rub that off.
It looks like it's wet.
But yeah, so this guy is just 2-row flaked rice and rice syrup.
Oh, you went all the way dry.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, we were messing around with the rice syrup because we did a rice lager with that recently that came out really good. I mean, it tasted exactly like an American cheap lager, but better. So we were like, oh, this is a great tasting ingredient. We're just going to try it in this brute. And then we hopped it with Citra, Nelson, and Galaxy. Because
Because you got Nelson.
Yeah. Because I found Nelson. Really, that's why. It was just
At a
somewhere in
price
my
you can
back
find it.
yeah, you can get anything for a price. It's just that's what happens when you don't have a brewer-owned brewery. You could just convince other people. You're like, yeah, this is worth it.
Oh yeah, this will sell. Don't worry, this will sell. Cost per barrel does not matter.
CPB.
And Jesse, where else you been? You been traveling a lot?
I was in Denmark with this dude with Pete for like almost a week.
John's hot dogs. What?
Yeah, Bobby Baklava in the house. Yeah, no, we both KCBC and Interboro were both invited to the All In Festival in Gothenburg, Sweden, and so we poured there and then went to Copenhagen, and I brewed 3 beers while I was there and did a couple tap takeovers. I did beers with Dry and Bitter, Ama, and Ale Farm, and had a great time. I think Copenhagen's really cool, and Denmark's a great market for American craft beer, and just a great place to rent a bike and ride around. So that was fun. So yeah, I've been traveling a little bit.
Yeah, and any guys coming into town that you're going to be working with?
Yeah, we're trying to get Dry and Bitter hopefully coming to town. I get to talk to you about this because they want to do an event, Pete, right before Christmas because Mary Ann's coming to town, and then yeah, we'll talk about it later.
An event.
And then
News to Pete.
Dugas is going to come into town. So there's a couple big beer festivals coming up at the end of January in the States. The Hootenanny, the Horace Hootenanny in L.A.
Is that like a shindig?
I think it is like a shindig.
Wow.
And then the Wakefest
that
and
different from a
EBF
hoedown?
at the very end of January, early Feb. So a bunch of Dugas is coming for that. So we're going to be hosting some Swedish and Danish breweries at our brewery, which will be exciting.
Are these new festivals?
All In is, I think, they were on their 5th year, I believe. And we were out there for another festival called Orboro, or Orebro. I can't speak Swedish at all, so I have no idea how to pronounce it. But Orboro, and that was the first year, and that's sort of halfway between Gothenburg and Stockholm. And actually, my business partner Laura went to that festival, so I didn't get to go to that one. But I mean, Scandinavia loves beer, which is, an understatement, I think. And there's a lot of opportunity there for New York or for craft brewers, but it's also just a lot of fun and get out there and meet other brewers who have backgrounds that are completely different than most of the people who I meet in the U.S. and yet are making great beer. And it's totally a ton of fun.
And Felipe, you're up here. What do you see that's interesting to you coming from Costa Rica?
Sorry, didn't.
What's interesting to you when you come to New York?
Well, I
beer-wise?
always love everything that comes out of the U.S. I always look for all the, especially KCBC. But like mostly what I do is train my palate. I try all the beers I can because I'm still learning. I've been home brewing, quote unquote, for 4 years and a half, and I'm not a master brewer yet, so I still have a lot to learn, and everything I can, I try to absorb. Like in this, since we started this podcast, I've learned so much. That's
You're
what
a quick learner.
That's what I try to do. Like when I want to do a new style that I haven't done, I try to taste as much beers of that style that I can, so that I can try to emulate that style when I try to experiment with my own system.
Yeah, and Stuart, you're quiet over there, but you'll put this show together tonight. Tell us more what the collaborations mean to you, because I know you're based more in New York area.
Stuart shows up as soon as we're done greening out.
He's really good at
my
that.
job
This
description.
is true.
We're the collabs are great. What's really exciting is building that the brewer's house at the farm, because we have the 3-brewery right now, 3-barrel brewery, but we're putting the 20-barrel in for next year. So we will be bringing in bigger groups, brewers from around the world, which will be really nice. We are in February going down to do a beer with Creature Comforts, which is exciting for us. Our first out-of-state beer. So a lot on the plate right now, so we're excited.
That's great, man.
Yeah, one thing I just want to mention about the collaborations is that, a lot of times, and I think that you touched on this a little bit, is that you learn so much and sometimes you don't even realize it, and it's just little things. Like, you go to a brewery and you see like, oh, somebody's got this clamp on this thing, on this Grundy, and it's like, wow, I've been doing that all wrong. That's stupid. This is just an easier way to do it. And it's just like, if you take one thing away from, a collaboration like that, it's huge. Where else were you going to learn that, And that's what's great about, I think, the community that we have in craft brewing, is that it's very open and we're willing to share with each other, because we're all still, in much of a learning phase.
And what about the consumer? So you feel like Felipe, you're up here training your palate, you feel like, but for you guys up here in New York, I mean, the consumers come really far. I mean, just not even in 10 years, in the last 5 years, right? I mean, you're talking about brute IPAs.
Well, I think what when it's like what Dieter said. You're learning little things when you work with other people on beer, but there's also the opportunity to learn to take big steps and to try flavors and to try things that haven't been done, and to really make beer for the sake of making beer. When you're working with somebody whose brand or whose flavor profiles may have a completely different approach than yours, when you get to make a beer that doesn't necessarily fall into your portfolio, and use ingredients that don't necessarily fall into what your salespeople are used to selling, and you get to sort of learn like what's going to work, and then incorporate those. Whether it's processes or ingredients, into the greater, sort of, who your beer is or what your beer is.
And then if it doesn't work out, you just blame the collaborator.
Yeah, exactly. You just blame. If it tastes like shit, you just blame KCBC.
Yeah,
so it's
well, they're not in the room at that point.
So do you want to try? Do you experiment in your brewery or the other guy's brewery?
Yeah, no, I'm joking, of course, but like.
No, you definitely experiment the other guy's brewery.
Yeah. You don't say that on the air, but that's what you do. But we're experimenting at my brewery, and I think I tried his beers; they were phenomenal. This one that we're having right now is incredible.
Oh yeah, it's really, really good.
It's
And
one of the best brewed IPA I've had.
And I'm really excited to see how this turns out. A 0 kettle hop IPA is a great idea. I was talking to Trevor about that earlier. Like, I can't believe I've never thought of this myself. Not that I'm like a brewing genius. By the way, I've never met a master brewer. I don't know that there is.
I don't think
thing.
there are any master brewers.
Those are just words.
Yeah, but
They're really old.
There's Michael Ferguson. I think Garrett Oliver.
I would never use that term personally. I don't know everything about brewing. I never will. And I'm just a brewer. But back to the collab, I'm just really excited to bring this yeast in and to try this new technique, and that's what collaboration's all about for me. It's always expanding.
The Quebec yeast has been. We had the guys from Handon this fall. You were talking about it last week. So, you've been working with it, Trevor. Tell us about it. It speeds up the fermentation. Does it change the flavors too, or it's just faster?
I mean, every ingredient is going to change.
Everything
flavor.
you put in the beer that's different than what you did last time is going to change the flavor.
Yeah, I think a couple nice things that it does is it does ferment real fast. So, we're usually done. After between knockout and terminal gravity is about 2 days, which is pretty cool. If you're trying to push a lot of beer out, and if you don't really have a lot of production space. You're just trying to churn through beers as fast as you can. Not to say that that's the best outlook always, but sometimes it's like, hey, I need an IPA out in 6 days. And so because it also, I don't know if I'm giving too much away here. I probably shouldn't be saying this, but so the nice thing is that
you already indicted yourself earlier.
Costa Rica's stealing our secrets, man.
Yeah. But the nice thing about fermenting warmer is that you don't have to dry hop for as long. In fact, you shouldn't dry hop as long. If you're putting in hops at 85 degrees, it's very different than putting them in at 68 or 70. So that's something to take into consideration, and it just kind of helps you push your beers.
Mind blown.
Oh, yeah.
And then Scotty, come on.
What?
You haven't really said a lot. You've been saying a lot.
I'm
but-
just hanging out.
Yeah.
Just hanging out. I'm just listening to Vic.
Talk about water chemistry.
How many parts per billion
Yeah, we
of
wanna know
sodium
parts per
chloride
billion.
would you add?
This is like the first beer radio podcast we've ever done. So
Yeah, right?
nobody knows anything here. But yeah, Scotty, for real. I mean, you came up, you own a gang, and you studied some brewing.
Yeah.
But what do you want? Okay, what do you want to
Champion of
know
the
from?
world.
What do you want to know from Pete? How about that? Why don't you ask a question?
I just ask him.
Ask him.
I just ask him questions.
Like what? Ask a question.
I just ask him. What's your favorite water? What size shoes do you wear?
10.
Where'd you get those boots?
Yeah.
Those are nice boots, Pete.
All right, Pete. What's your favorite
Is there a
water?
place on Franklin?
Yeah.
Pete,
Pops. I got it at Pops.
What's your favorite
Pete, what's your favorite water
Favorite water? Evian.
to brew with? You guys will run.
Is that still or carbonated?
Carbonated.
Oh yeah.
The bubbles
It
are
really
good.
Depends
it really
on-
helps making beer if you start with carbonated because you save a step at the end.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you mash in with carbonated water, then you don't have to waste all that
So you're saying we
CO2
should-
at the end.
We could have saved so much money on bright time.
I know. Right?
You just,
don't
just
even
put
need
some
bright
DME and
taste.
some seltzer, and you're good, dude. You're fine.
That's all you need. All right.
Well, what I was getting at
Taking
with
notes.
water is one of the things,
Nobody told you.
collaborations, one of the things we learned from Pete was, water chemistry. And we'd been struggling with it at the brewery because we're on a well and our water it was changing quite a bit. But one of the things that was very eye-opening to me was how little adding various things to the water chemistry changed the beer dramatically. Just small amounts of certain things, that you just don't anticipate because you're making a big batch of beer and you think, well, how is that possibly, this tiny little amount going to change it? Well, it did. It changed it, dramatically for the better for us. And that was something that came out of a collaboration for us.
Great, Trevor.
Also, for the record, water chemistry matters in other things besides beer. Coffee being one of them is pretty cool. Like, if you use New England water to brew your coffee, it tastes awesome. Cuts a little bit down on the bitterness. It has a more rounder, fuller thing.
Softer.
But really anything that involves water chemistry matters for sure.
And Fubs, baking, right?
Bagels.
Bagels
Pizza.
and pizza.
Bagels
New
and
York
pizza.
bagels are New York bagels because of the pH in the water. Same with pizza. Same with Philly's rolls. Like the cheesesteaks, it's bullshit. It's just the roll that makes it a cheesesteak. Cheese and steak is cheese and steak. A roll is what is the pH. It's made in Philly. In Pennsylvania, it's good. Pennsylvania Dutch bread makes a cheesesteak.
Now I'm hungry.
Yeah.
We're all getting
Or
hungry.
Cheese Whiz. Cheese
All
Whiz.
right.
Yeah, Cheese
Cheese
Whiz.
whiz makes a cheesesteak.
Last thing,
Whiz,
Jesse.
whiz,
Last comment.
Me?
You, man. I haven't seen you in a long time.
Come on, Jesse, bring it all together. Bring it home.
Yeah.
Visit Interboro Spirits and Ales. We're open Wednesday through Sunday. No, I mean, I'm just happy to be here, Jimmy. Thank you for having us.
Good to see you.
again.
Let's do
Yeah,
the
it's
same.
great to
Miguel,
see
tell
you.
us. Everyone give that little Jesse spiel. Tell us about your festival in Costa Rica.
Felipe.
Well, this is our second year. This year we have a lot more hosts from Have another brewer from Chester King that I don't remember what was her name. Joel Shelton from Shelton Brothers is coming down as well. Pete as well. Miguel from Beer Trekker. It's a very nice international community.
What's the date? I'm going.
It's January 19th, I think. Whatever Saturday is.
We'll go with the 19th.
All right, Pete, we got to wrap this up. Pete, KCBC.
I got to pass this over here.
Yeah,
I just like that we're talking about collaborating. I do like beer. And I just urge everyone to get out there and collaborate and share. Like, don't hold back. Let everyone else know what your little secrets are, and they'll show you theirs.
Cross some streams.
Yeah, cross them.
Show me yours and I'll show you mine.
Show people yours. You might. Yeah, don't be embarrassed. And we're all gonna, rising tide. We're all gonna make better beer together, and that's what it's all about. So, cheers.
All right, everybody. Trevor, Scotty, Dieter, guys, thanks for joining me here on the show. Stuart and Phubs from Just That. I'm Jimmy Carboni, host of Beer Sessions Radio. Thanks to our producer, Justin Kennedy, engineer Matt Patterson, Dylan Hoyer, our intern. We'll catch you next time on Beer Sessions Radio. All right. Woo, woo,
Thank
woo.
you, Jimmy. Wolfgang's here.
Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. For our freshest content and to hear about exclusive events, subscribe to our newsletter. Enter your email at the bottom of our website, heritageradionetwork.org. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at heritage_radio. Heritage Radio Network is a nonprofit organization driving conversations to make the world a better, fairer, more delicious place. And we couldn't do it without support from listeners like you. Want to be a part of the food world's most innovative community? Rate the shows you like, tell your friends, and please join our community by becoming a member. Just click on the beating heart at the top right of our homepage. Thanks for listening.